I talked to the STC, been talking a long time. I've never had any doubt that they're there, that they want independence. It's just a matter of looking at the road to opportunity for us. Each of these events in Yemen present an opportunity, but that's the direction of travel. And with the Riyadh agreement, Hadi and the STC simply have different objectives. They can't ever, it's very difficult to see it ever being implemented properly. But does anybody else want to comment before we move on?
Yes, me.
Uh,
Thank you so much, Dr. Stephen Brahim, as well, for the comments. I just have few comments concerning the big picture of what's happening in the South. I think what's happening in the South is kind of parameter for the UAE Saudi relationship, because this is actually since 2015. If there is any sort of strong collaboration between the two countries, it reflected in the South with agreements and stability. And if the situation is opposite, the disputes and competition unfortunately erupted among their aligned proxies or aligned local factions. And if we look at Riyadh agreement, for instance, it was an attempt actually between Saudi Arabia and Emiratis to try to understand or try to bring their alliance to a sort of common understanding, and try to bring the STC to the government in order to have this kind of unified front against the Houthis. But at the end of the day, there is, huge division among the two actors. And this is actually what I was expecting from the beginning. There will be huge failure at the end of the day because the SCC is looking for something else, and it will work inside the government to look for its own interest. And it links with another external actors, which has also different agenda than Saudi Arabia, of course.
yeah.
The second point related to the STC itself and its relationship with Hadi government, I think we cannot read it as Hadi government became controlled by some political parties. Rather, we need to look into what happened in the South. Some actually historical incidents are reflected actually in this relationship, namely 86 incidents between Zumra and Toma. Hadi government, Ali Nasser Muhammad, and this party with the other socialist wing. So I think this reflected actually in the battles of Abiyan, and it can clearly see how these of grievances are revived again.
Yeah.
The third point related to Aden as a central actually area in the south, but it's not necessarily reflecting what's happening in all the south. Today we have Al Mahra, and it has its own politics. People are looking for autonomy, and Hadramaut as well. So I think this kind of points need to be taken into account when it comes to how we can understand what's going in the south.
I do agree with the points that Ibrahim and Ahmed made about the STC's lack of strong support uniformly across the South. This is clearly the case. People often refer to Al Mahra, but look, Al Mahra is out at the edge, right, of far eastern Yemen. It simply doesn't have the significance, that places like Hadramaut and Shabwa and Abiyan, Lahaj Adala, around at Aden does. And obviously in Al Mahra, you have, Omani influence there. And obviously the Omani government has its own role that it's playing in Yemeni politics. So I don't think that's the key point about the role that the STC poses in the current Yemen conflict, because the central point is the presence that it has in and around the city of Aden. I think it's a mistake to gloss over that and say, just because the STC doesn't have uniform support across the country, it can kind of be ignored. I think there's a danger that if you ignore it, right, and if you don't give it presence at the seat of the table, it has a tremendous spoiler role that it can play. But I just think the reality on the ground is that they're going to cause a huge fight in and around Aden if they get discarded, and if they're pushed to the side. The other thing that I think about the Riyadh agreement, Noel, is that in some ways, the Riyadh agreement relieved the STC and Aden. Like they were becoming worried that they were going to face all of the blame for the lack of services in Aden. And in some way, I mean, in talking to some of the STC leaders, I almost sense that they're glad that Hadi's government is back in Aden and the prime minister is there, so that they can diminish some of the popular grievance against the STC, after they seized power in Aden in 2019. So in some ways, I think in political terms, I think it worked to the advantage of the STC.
Yes, I'll just add, I've met the head of the STC in Al-Mahra, and he said it was extremely weak. And don't forget, so the bulk of population in the south is actually concentrated around Aden. If you look at that's where sort of 75% of the population is. So it's always going to be a dominant feature in the south, as it was in PDI days.